Today our travels have brought us here to the Western Pacific Ocean to explore the largest of the tiny islands of Micronesia, the United States territory of Guam. This small island is only 210 square miles, but it is filled with incredible history, natural beauty, and warm hospitality. Each night we've been sharing messages of hope under the big white tent behind the Adventist clinic. Many have been touched and blessed by the message of the gospel as Jesus has been lifted up night after night. During our time here in Guam, we've not only had the privilege of sharing the gospel, but we've also been blessed to experience the gospel firsthand through the hospitality of the people, the beauty of the natural scenery, and the powerful lessons of its history. From this micro island of Guam comes a macro message of grace. This tiny island was a battlefield during the Second World War. Just one day after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, Japanese forces infiltrated this U.S. island territory, sinking their vessels and killing their Marine and naval soldiers. But 6 of the Navy seamen were able to avoid capture by hiding in the jungle. Tragically, 5 of them were recaptured and brutally beheaded. But one of them, U.S. Navy Radarman George Tweed, was able to avoid capture and survived the entire 2.5 years of Japanese occupation. During that whole time, he was hunted down until he was finally rescued in 1944. He was the final remnant that remained when the war was finished, the last U.S. soldier standing when the dust settled and the smoke cleared. Now, besides the grace of God, there were 2 practical things that enabled Tweed to survive his trying ordeal: the Rocky Mountain forest that provided a shelter for him to hide, and the self-sacrificing kindness of the locals that provided him food to eat. Now, one of those locals was Antonio Artero. Tony hid Tweed on his ranch property here on the northeast portion of the island. Each week, Tony would bring food and water and other supplies that Tweed needed. Now, by doing so, he was risking his life and the life of his whole family, which included his wife and 8 children that were with him. And even though he knew the risk, he went out of the way to save the life of another. Today I was able to meet with Tony's grandson, Dwight. He told me the story and showed me the land where his grandfather hid this hunted soldier. Dwight said that even though his grandfather knew that it was a huge risk, he couldn't turn Tweed down, because to him, Tweed looked just like Jesus with his long, overgrown facial hair. So saying no to him was like saying no to Jesus. Being a very devoted religious man, Tony felt that it was his spiritual duty to do all he could to help and protect another in need, even at the risk of his own life. And that's exactly what he did. What an incredible story with so many powerful lessons. You see, what happened here in Micronesia is a microcosm of the macro grace of God. And as I've walked upon the ground of this amazing war story, here are some of the spiritual lessons I was reminded of. First of all, when the enemy hunts us down, the Lord promises to be our refuge. The psalmist said, "I'll lift up mine eyes to the hills." Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Our God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in our time of trouble. And here's another lesson. When we come across someone that needs our help, like Tony, we're to be the hands and feet of God to help and protect those who cannot help and protect themselves. And as we do, we are in reality ministering to Jesus in the person of his children. For Jesus said, "Insomuch as you've done it to the least of these, my brethren, you've done it also to me." And finally, just as Tony unselfishly risked all to save Tweed, Jesus indeed gave everything to save us. When the enemy sought to take our lives, Jesus laid down his in our place. He suffered so that we might be saved. He bled so that we might be blessed. He was forsaken that we might be forgiven. And he died so that we might live. That's what I call amazing macro grace. It is macro grace not only for Micronesia, but for the whole world, for you and for me. It is offered to all who feel themselves insignificant and small, to all whose backs are against the enemy's wall, and to all who are burdened with the guilt and the shame of a moral fall. It is this macro grace that will lift us up from our fall, will give us the spiritual strength to stand tall, and it will protect us like a solid rock wall. And in order for this macro grace to be ours, all we have to do is call. And so today I appeal to you to call upon the God of macro grace right now, and you shall be saved.